Hello and welcome, episode 117 of The Next Best Bet. We're recording on Valentine's Day, and Brett, I'm in love with our last picks that we had. A quick hindsight with Higgins, looking at episode 116's picks. I went 3-2, you went 3-2. We hit the pick of the pod, we hit the Levy lock. My Jets money line won. Nick Kyrgios. I got to talk about the Australian Open real quick because we're going to be talking about it a little bit more later. Some fantastic late night tennis we've been watching. Kyrgios was the last guy or last match to still have fans before Australia shut back down and stopped allowing fans at the Australian Open. He's Australian, and it was a fantastic match. He won his first two sets, and then it's almost like the fanfare worked against him, and it was just an utter collapse. It was so sad to see. The plus 340 was looking so good 2 sets in, and then after set 3, started worrying a little bit.
Yeah, well, I guess the odd makers knew what they were doing. They knew the other guy could outlast him, Higgins, but you knew it was a long shot plus 340, and you had 2 sets there where you really thought you had a shot.
Yes, I did. Let's take a look at yours, though. I mean, your Levy Lock, USC, and those Mobley brothers, they just keep winning with those Trojans.
Yeah, like I said, that was more of a fade Washington play, right? So I guess keep doing that. But yeah, USC played really well in that one. Higgins, the Pittsburgh Islanders game ended up going to overtime, so that usually helps you out a little bit, unless it's a low-scoring game, because that sucks. When you got like 5 and it's 2-2 going into overtime, you're like, well, that sucks. I had the opposite. The over had hit and then it went to overtime. So that was a nice win as well. And Kansas locked up their home court. UCLA won but couldn't cover.
And then let's move on to Beginners Boulevard because we've seen some commercials for things like the Masters coming up in April. You get to talk about March Madness, and a term called the field comes up. It's in prop bets. You're betting on the field of players or teams compared to a specific team or players. So betting Tiger against the field or betting Duke against the field is kind of how that works.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes there's a lot of players listed, so you have to be careful and actually read them all. But generally speaking, it gives you the largest number in any random pool of players.
It can be the safer way to bet, absolutely. I mean, you're betting 1 versus 100 versus 63. I mean, betting the field is obviously the safer route to go, even though you're betting the overall favorite typically in most terms.
Definitely the betting favorite.
Going into NBA on Monday night, Brett, we don't have necessarily a lot of favorites. We have a lot of good games, though. I like the Chicago Bulls versus Pacers game, Brett, and it's simply because the Bulls they haven't played great. They're 10-15, but on the road they have played great, especially against the spread. They're 8-1 as away dogs.
Wow, 8-1 is away dogs. What a stat, Higgins.
So plus 5.5, I'm gonna take that. Maybe if it's at 5.5, it gets close down to the fouls. It becomes a 3.2 point game at the very end. Give me the plus 5.5 Bulls.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a trend that you want to ride. Well, that is a great nugget. That's a good little find there. I like that one. The Chicago Bulls are 8-1 against the spread on the road. That's really good.
Well, no, as away dogs, not just
Oh, as
against the spread.
away dogs. Okay, my
As
bad.
an away team, they're 9-3.
Nine
So
and
they're
three.
they're
still
still good
really
against the
good.
spread on the road. They haven't played great at home. They've been playing a lot at home recently. This is their first game on their next road stretch, going only from Chicago to Indianapolis. Not too long of a travel. I like the plus 5.5 play here.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting play. I'm definitely gonna watch that one tomorrow. Now, rooting hard for Chicago for you, but I'm actually gonna be on 2 games in the NBA on Monday night. Higgins, the Hawks travel to the Knicks. Knicks 1.5 point dogs on their home court. Higgins, so I like the Knicks, who have a better record than Atlanta this year, to take care of business at home. And just in case they lose by one, I have a little bit of coverage here at minus 110.
Okay, okay. The young Knicks have been playing really well this season. I saw just last night on Saturday, actually, Obi Toppin and a great alley oop made it onto the top 10. They've been flashy. I've liked what I've seen from the Knicks. I also like this Hawks team. I really like Trey Young. I really like him with Clint Capella and all those tools down there. So that should be a fantastic matchup, I think.
Yeah, I think the problem with the Hawks right this second has been they haven't been consistently healthy throughout the year. Like Gallinari started the year out, and now he's back, and I want to say Hunter is out currently. So um, there's been like some inconsistency in that lineup, and I think that's hurt the Hawks a little bit. But the Knicks have the better record, and they're the home team, Higgins. So I'm just taking it in this one. I'm kind of with you. It's not my favorite play of the night, but it just feels like a good spot to take the Knicks.
It should be an entertaining game to watch, so I will definitely be tuning into that one as well.
Yeah, and then late night, the Heat travel to the Clippers. Clippers are actually tipping off as we're starting this recording, Higgins. They actually haven't tipped off yet, so there's still a little time before the Clippers tip off, but they're tipping off late on Sunday night, and the Heat are off on Sunday. So I'm just gonna take the Heat and say they're gonna be well rested compared to the Clippers in their next game.
Hey, that makes sense. Although the Heat, they're 4-8 on the road. That's money line.
Yeah, I mean, I get them with some points, so that's good. But yeah, the Heat they struggled early. I think they're playing better as of late since Jimmy Butler's come back from COVID. They've looked like a better team. Bam Adebayo looks like a superstar playing next to him, so that's always great.
Yeah, the Heat have covered 3 of their last 5, whereas the Clippers have only covered 2 of their last 5.
And in a back to back, who knows what you're getting out of Kawhi? Paul George has missed time for them, so lots of question marks for the Clips.
Very fair. There's also the Nets. They'll be in Sacramento. They're 4-point favorites against the Kings. And then the Warriors, 8.5-point favorites against the Cavs. Those are the early looks as of Sunday night on Monday's games. Let's jump into college hoops, though, Brett. I mean, we have a great ACC matchup of Virginia versus Florida State. I'm very intrigued about this game. How about you?
Yeah, I think this should be a great matchup, Higgins. We saw the NCAA like release their 1 through 16 for the NCAA tournament, kind of how like they do for the college football playoff. They've started doing that for the NCAA tournament right now. And Virginia was in that top 16. So Virginia's a great team. Florida State's trying to prove that they're one of the best teams in the ACC. And this is a big time matchup.
It is a big time matchup, and you know what? Both of these teams, they're not necessarily their stereotypical Seminoles or Cavaliers. I mean, if this was a typical Cavaliers team, I'd be taking the under, but I'm going to be on the over 130 because overall, that's a pretty low over under for these two teams the way they've played. I mean, Florida State, they average 79 points per game. Virginia averages just under 70 points per game at 69.9. So, looking at that, these teams can absolutely score. Their defenses haven't been as strong as before. And even if you look at their over under records, I mean, the Seminoles, they've outscored their over under margins by 8 points this year, and the Cavaliers as well by 2.5 points. So this looks like an over game with a low over under as of Sunday night.
Yeah, I think the over is definitely in play, but I just wouldn't be surprised if, a Virginia Florida State game. If you told me that game hit the under, I'd be like, well, I mean, yeah, but that's just the nature of these teams and coaches. It doesn't mean it's going to be this year or this game's result. It's just when you hear those two programs matched up, you're just kind of like, oh, under. So it's almost a little contrarian, Higgins.
Yeah, I mean, it's number 9 Virginia, number 17 Florida State, but The sweet number is 65. All I need is each team to score 65, and that at least is a push at 130, which is, there's no hook on this as well. That's
Yeah,
nice.
no, that is nice. And the Apple Cup also takes place on Monday night, Higgins. Washington travels to Washington State. Normally, I would say just fade Washington, but in a rivalry game, I couldn't take it. I couldn't take Washington State minus 7.5.
Well, not to mention Washington State was who was playing UCLA, who you had taken in last episode. You had faded Washington in both aspects last episode. One worked for you, one didn't, but I agree. Even though one of these teams is only 3-16, I can't do it.
And not in a
I can't do
rivalry game. I can't lay 7.5 in what'll be Washington's biggest game of the year.
it. It'll be interesting to see, though. I think we agree our eyes in terms of basketball on Monday night are more shifted towards the NBA that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Let's talk about a Sunday night basketball game, though, Brett, or just a Sunday basketball game. Loyola Chicago, because you had to point this game out to me. It was not initially on my radar, even though I should give both of these teams their respect. Loyola's ranked. Drake is a 19 and 2 coming into this game. High ranked versus Missouri Valley Conference game.
Yeah, no, two really good teams that have performed really well. I want to say Drake was like the last undefeated team against the spread this year, Higgins. But this was a back to back actually between these two, and Loyola won on Saturday, 81-54. But we're talking about Sunday here, Higgins. And we'll hop in here out of a TV timeout, 3:42 remaining in the second half. Drake had just cut into a double-digit Loyola lead to make the score 40-44, but not long after Loyola turns a Loyola turnover, leads to a Tremel Murphy three to cut the Loyola lead to one. So now we're looking at a 44-41 game as Drake has come all the way back. Drake would foul on the next possession. Cameron Krutwig, we'll hear his name a few times, was able to convert one of two free throws, so he extends the lead back to two. After about three missed shots and two turnovers, Higgins, Roman Pence finally would make a layup for Drake to tie the game at 45 apiece.
That's with a minute 26 left in regulation, and no one would score in the final 86 seconds, Brett. So this game went to overtime. I mean, this was a fantastic game. But before we get into overtime, Brett, I do want to point out that Drake did all of this while having a nearly 5 minute scoreless stretch in the second half as well. It was 35. It was 33-32 with 12 minutes left in this game, Brett. That was the last time Drake had scored. And then they went scoreless, and the next time they made a point was on a free throw with 7:29 left in the game, down 42-33 at the time. So the fact they went 5 minutes without scoring and were able to still force overtime is really impressive.
Yeah, there were so many droughts for both these teams in this one, Higgins. It was like frustrating at times. You had to be frustrated as a backer, as a fan, as an alumnus. Like, you just had to be like, what the hell is going on with my team? And then they get smoking hot and, turn a 10-point deficit into nothing, force overtime.
Yeah, but then in overtime, I mean, it was an interesting one, wasn't it?
Yeah, Loyola would win the drought, but we mentioned scoring droughts, Higgins. The drought would continue until Drake finally takes a timeout, and then the scoring would open up again. Roman Penn hits a shot for Drake. Marquise Kennedy would come right back down and take the lead with an and one finish for Loyola Chicago. The Ramblers up one, but it was back and forth all the way down the stretch. Tremel Murphy, another huge shot, gives Drake a 1 point edge, 49-48. And I know there are 2 minutes left still, Higgins. But unfortunately, this is the turning point, I think. Right here is where the game turns.
Oh
Cam.
yeah.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're fine. I was just coming in to say this is where the game decided when Cameron Cutwig would turn the ball over.
Yeah, he would turn the ball over, creating a jump ball situation. The possession arrow goes to Drake. Drake would call a timeout. They would score again, pushing their lead to 3 on a Darnell Brody layup. Drake would foul on the very next possession. Now, this is of note because Loyola Chicago's Brandon Norris would hit both free throws, but those are the last points of the game, Higgins. The final minute 22 of this one decided by defense.
So there was an 86-second drought at the end of regulation to send this game to overtime. And then after two free throws with a minute 53 left, just no one scores. That's some great defense. We clapped our hands together on some defense with some moneyline magics before, but we have to tip our caps to that one. I mean, a 51-50, that smells like some defense to me.
Yeah, no, a lot of great contests, missed open shots. These teams are scrambling down the stretch trying to make plays. No one can convert. Defense takes the day. These guys weren't sending anyone to the free throw line. They were just out there playing Higgins, and it was decided on a bunch of missed shots, unfortunately.
They weren't mailing it in, they were mailing out assists like the mailman. A new year brings a new beginning, though, and for all my listeners that own a business, I want to tell you about FedEx Office. If you are just starting or have been running your company for generations, FedEx Office gives you the best way to print marketing materials, posters, signage, graphics, and so much more. With FedEx, creating, saving, editing, and ordering are fast and easy. We are teaming up with FedEx and Podgo to bring our listeners 30% off our next order of $100 or more at podgo.co/FedEx. That's podgo.co/FedEx for 30% off your next order. FedEx, the world on time.
Yeah, I like using FedEx for all my printing needs. And, if I ever need to go get boxes for moving, I'm looking at houses, Higgins. Always go to FedEx office. I know they have plenty of boxes there for me to go get. So that's good too.
Boxes are some of my favorite Christmas presents.
Boxes are some of my favorite. I feel bad for you, Higgins. I'm going to send you a better Christmas present this year. And actually, next year, open the box.
Okay, okay, I'll
Yeah.
try that.
Okay.
But let's get into hockey, though, Brett, because that's something that I am a little more confident on. Specifically, I've talked about this before, the over-unders when they're set at 5.5. The way hockey's going right now is played a lot faster. I think 5.5 is a good value over-under, especially if you can get the over at positive numbers like we have on Sunday night here. Blues Coyotes, 5.5. Over is plus 103. I'm going to be taking that because you look at how these teams have played recently. I mean, St. Louis, they've won their past two games against Arizona. It was 1-4 and then 4-5, the most recent one being a 4-5 game. As long as the Coyotes score more than one goal, it'll probably hit the over-under. That sounds like a hit to me. The other over-under that I'm taking is the Islanders-Sabres game, Brett. But it sounded like you wanted to say something about the Blues-Coyotes game.
No, I just like the strategy of we've kind of circled in on these over 5.5 seconds, and you're on one at plus 103. I see another one here coming up that you were about to mention in this Islanders Sabres game, so I'll hold off my comments just a little bit and let you continue.
All right, yeah. The over/under in this Islanders Sabres game is also 5.5 and it's set at 106. I like those odds because whenever you're getting plus odds, the book's paying you the vig instead of you paying them. It's very nice. It's very nice. And you look at the recent games, Islanders, they just had a 4-2 win. Sabres, they had a 3-5 loss. So even when they're losing, they're scoring a lot. When they beat the Devils the game before that, it was a 4-3 win. That hits as well. Uh, Islanders the Islanders game before the Bruins win was a 3-4 loss to Pittsburgh. Both of these teams have been recently hitting an over 5.5. I see that to continue when they connect up.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense, and kind of what you were saying. I'm riding this 5.5 train. With plus money on the over. The Preds and the Stars get together on Monday night as well at Higgins. Not sure if you're aware, but now you're aware because I told you, no other reason.
Well,
And
thank you.
yeah, exactly. I'm taking all the credit. No one else gets it. Um, so Nashville and Dallas get together, and these teams are averaging in their games over 5.5 goals in all their games. So I think this is an over at plus 102. Obviously, I'm concerned. Rene's a great goalie in Nashville, so he could certainly be hot on any given night and shut out the Stars, right? But I'm betting on the Stars offense, and I'm betting on the Predators to keep it close and competitive.
I mean, you're right. Renee at any point can have a hot night, but that Predators offense is great. I think the Stars have also played really well this season so far. They have a good offense, over 5.5. In a lot of hockey games this year, or in this day and age, I think the over is a smart play with a 5.5. So I see no problem in taking it in most scenarios. The next game that I'm going to be on, the over under is 6.5 though, Brett. So I'm going to find myself in a different spot, and that is Ottawa plus 1.5 on the puck line. Partly because how often do you see plus 1.5 with plus odds at plus 106? Not very often. And the Senators, most recently, they just got a boost of confidence with just their third win of the season, a win against the Winnipeg Jets where they had a last second goal, almost a money line magic, Brett. They scored with 8.6 seconds left in the third period to win that game. It was a candidate.
It was definitely a
Loyola
candidate.
Loyola and Drake won, but that was a candidate. So I'm going to say they're going to ride in with that confidence. The Maple Leafs most recently just lost a 2-1 game against the Canadiens. So who knows? Can the Senators keep it to a 1 goal loss? I hope so because it seems like Vegas doesn't, and I think there's a good window of opportunity there.
Well, I just like that you gave out the first ever honorable mention. I love that. Like, congratulations, Senators. You only have 3 wins on the year, but here's the next best bet honorable mention award. Like, kind of like the second best thing to a participation trophy, I think. So, put that up on your mantle.
Yeah, well, the paper's in the mail
Yeah, exactly. It's on its way.
with some FedEx office.
FedEx office is helping us get it there.
All right. There's tons of other hockey games, Brett. I mean, we had 10 lines to choose from as of Sunday night. So, I mean, plenty of great hockey to watch. I mean, even some of the late night games with the Flames Canucks, Ducks Sharks, Chicago Blackhawks, and Detroit Red Wings. That game kind of enticed me, but I feel like it's a trap game. I don't know really which way it's going to go, so I'm going to stay away from it. Any of these other games really stick out to you at all?
I kind of like Chicago minus 135 on the money line, Higgins. I don't know if I like it enough to bet it with 135 juice, but it's intriguing. That's like right up my borderline. 135, 140. Like, that's where I'm like, that's just too much to bite off.
I agree. I agree. The Ducks Sharks, interesting money line. One of them's minus 105, the other one's minus 110. The Ducks, the minus 105, slight favorites, but interesting we don't see them each at minus 110.
Yeah, that's mean. Just like put them at even odds. Make it a pick 'em.
All right. I told you we were going to talk about the Australian Open a little bit more tonight, Brett, and I do have two more picks because I've watched a little bit more since my picks that I made in episode 116, where I went 1 for 1. I've done a little better since as well, and I'm gonna continue this logic. Novak Djokovic is the number one seed. He's the number one seed for the reason. He's number one in the world for a reason. He's an amazing tennis player, and I think he's going to face off against Rafael Nadal in the finals, most likely, like the 1 and 2 seeds are known to be doing in men's tennis recently with how long Nadal, Federer, and Djokovic have kind of held it. I mean, they just dominated. So Novak Djokovic minus 225. It's a safe pick. I think he's going to win it against Alexander Zverev.
Yeah, I definitely think that's I also think that's what's gonna happen, Higgins. I just I don't really have much else to add. I think he's the best men's player on the planet right now, and It's tough for me to pick against him really in any situation. Minus 225 was, again, just too thick for me. But I think that's a good opportunity for you to get your win and increase your bankroll a little bit.
Well, hey, I ate my juice with the Winnipeg Jets, which was my pick of the pod last episode in that one, and my Simona Halep pick, which was minus 235 in that one. So you know what? I'm gonna trust the process. I'm gonna trust the process a little bit. My next pick, though, in women's tennis, this is a little closer to even odds, and I just mentioned Simona Halep. I don't think she's gonna beat Serena Williams. I really don't. Serena Williams at minus 135, even though she is the 10 seed and Simona Halep is the 2 seed. I just don't see it happening. I think Serena's been playing really well. Simona Halep had been playing fantastic, but most recently in her match against Iga Swiatek, not sure if I'm pronouncing that last name right. It's a little hard, but she had a very powerful serve, and Simona Halep at only 5'5", 5'6", it was a little more difficult for her to return. Serena Williams is known for her tenacity on the court of being able to have a high velocity serve and things of that nature. So I like Serena's chances here, even though she is the underdog as a seed and the betting favorite because she is just one of those consensus favorites that in betting it's smart to go to.
Higgins, it's a little bit head versus heart for me. I think Halep's probably the right play here, but I can't bet against Serena. Like she's our girl, Higgins. So, for me, it's bet on Williams or nothing. So I'm gonna stay away because I don't want to jinx her. You and I have a history of doing that when we get on the same line. So certainly don't want any of that. And
Trust
I'd
the
like to,
pillars.
yeah, exactly. I'd like to see her move on. I'd like to see you get a win, but I'm really doing it for Serena, not so much for you. Sorry, Higgins.
Well, I appreciate that, and as long as I can be a beneficiary of Serena's success, that's always all right to me as a sports bettor. I think the times of these have fluctuated depending on how long the matches before them take, but now that we're getting into the later matches, I think we're now down to the quarterfinals. There's not as many matches to be played, so hopefully these times are a little bit more firm. But as of right now, it's early Tuesday morning on the East Coast. I think 3 a.m. is the time that Serena's game's going to start. Uh, so that's midnight for me. And then you look at the Djokovic match, and that's the same timing on Tuesday morning as well. So they are early morning matches. Not great for the sleep schedule.
No, I will be tucked in bed. I look forward to waking up to all your angry texts throughout the matches, telling me what a serve, what a bad return, and I'll promptly respond at 5 a.m. your time.
Hopefully, I'll be asleep by then. But let's get into our Levy locks and pick of the pods, Brett, because we had some good luck last episode. So let's see how we do this time.
Yeah, there's no way it continues. Keep fading us. Yeah, even a blind squirrel finds an acorn, Higgins. So I guess we got lucky.
Yeah, we need to have a little more proof in the pudding. I mean, I'm still what 3-10, and you're still what 5-8. Yeah, so I'm at a 30% basically, and you're at almost. You're getting closer to 500. You're getting closer to being trusted again.
The proof is in the pudding, but I'm taking the Miami Heat as my Levy lock, Higgins. I don't. I'm really taking it off the fact that the Clippers game is going on as we speak right now, as we're recording this podcast. Um, and Miami had an off day on Sunday, so I don't know what the Clippers lineups will look like 100%. They're gonna figure that stuff out later in the day, and we have a podcast to record. So right now, I see the Heat at plus 5.5. I think the Clippers lineup can only get worse than it is right now. So I think there's a good value, and that line's only going to decrease throughout the day.
Absolutely. I'm going to go with a very similar line, also a plus 5.5 line. The Bulls plus 5.5. And it's simply because of the great nugget that I found, Brett, of while the Bulls are 10-15 on the season, a lot of those games have been at home. On the road, they've played a lot better. Against the spread on the road, they're 9-3. And as away dogs, they are 8-1, so plus 5.5 against the Pacers, which isn't a very far road trip to take from Chicago. I'm liking the chances, so lock me in for that Bulls 5.5.
All right, nice. Go Bulls, go Heat.
Go Bulls, go Heat, go plus 5.5. Keep it close. We'll have some other picks though. We don't really have picks more than a day out now, except for those Australian Open picks that are Tuesday at midnight, basically. So make sure to follow us on our social media where we will be giving out picks in between our podcast episodes as well. That's at NBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel. This has been episode 117 of the Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you again on Thursday.